Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a gun I'm really excited to get to shoot and review. This is the Smith & Wesson M&P9 M2.0 Performance Center. And as you can see, this has a few visual upgrades over the standard model. We have some slide cuts, and the barrel is ported and compensated. We have a stainless steel barrel, and the trigger in this is supposed to be an upgrade over the standard model. And that's just a few of the things that they have done to this. Now, this model, I think, is geared towards competition more than duty. However, you could definitely use this as a duty gun, and I don't think this is necessarily going to compete with the likes of a Staccato or an Atlas Gunworks 2011. So I don't know if that is going to appeal to the higher end audience, but this might be for the gun guy that's looking for a standard type of pistol that you get some competition options with. And normally Smith & Wesson does a really good job with their Performance Center guns. I've always been impressed with everything that has come out of there. So I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to shoot this. But before I get into the things that I like and don't like and talk about the features and the upgrades of this pistol over the standard model, as always, I want to thank the people that make this video possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool pistol. He's a local fan and subscriber. His name is Jack. Jack, thank you so much for lending this gun for review. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here and this content coming. And if you guys want to join my Patreon for as little as just $1 a month and see all these videos early, there's a link in the description. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who always provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, thus making them financially feasible, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And I know this pistol does not take custom wood panel grips. After all, it is a polymer Wonder 9. However, most likely you own a 1911, a CZ75, a Beretta 92, or a Browning High Power, and you would like to get some custom grips. Maybe it's a family heirloom gun or a gun that you carry every day, and you're looking for a custom logo or a custom engraving on those grips. Well, I have the perfect company for you, Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making grips one at a time, to order for his customers. Mark is an artist. He's a craftsman. He's making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. And as I mentioned, he can put on custom logos and custom engravings. Every grip he makes is made to order. And if there's something on his website that you don't see, I guarantee you he can make it. But he's always adding new products to his line all the time. In fact, one of the latest is the Browning High Power. So I'm asking you guys to go over there, check out his website, see what he has to offer. I guarantee you guys are going to love his work. So make sure to contact Mark. Tell him what you're looking for. And when you do, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about this gun. As I mentioned, it is the Performance Center edition of the M&P9 M2.0. So we do get all of the M2.0 upgrades, including things like the elongated metal in the frame. The 1.0s didn't have that, so we have a metal insert that goes all the way to the end, thus making the frame a little bit more rigid. We do get a better texture on the grip. Now, this is more of a harder polymer than the Generation 1s. I kind of put the grip texture on this very similar to that of a Glock RTF2 type of a texture. You do get the multiple backstrap system, which I know a lot of people like. Another thing that people will always talk about is the front serrations, which for me are really, really tiny, but aesthetically they do look pretty nice, and I do like them. Some people do like to have those press checks and things and to grab the slide from the front, so you do have those serrations. This particular model does come with suppressor height sights. Even though the barrel is compensated, I do like those sights. They're a little bit more visually appealing and easy to use. But Jack has put on a Crimson Trace red dot on this, and that's another upgrade. These slides are cut for optics. I know a lot of people like that. Another huge upgrade, and what I think is the biggest upgrade with these pistols over the 1.0 is the trigger. The first generation of these guns did not have a very tactile or audible reset, and the brake was kind of mushy, but this one is really good. Now, I know there are aftermarket triggers, there's that reset, very short take up, that do a great job too, like I had mentioned, like the company Apex, and a lot of people will trade these triggers out, but I actually find that the M2.0 triggers are really good, and for me, function great. I'm also a big fan of the porting on this. Now, I don't always like compensated guns, but in some guns with the philosophy of use of competition or just as a range toy, I do like compensators. And this one is built into the slide. One of the things I don't like about some of the new 2011 pistols is they have an external compensator that is tagged onto the end of the barrel. I prefer it when the porting is in the barrel itself. I think it gives you cleaner lines, it doesn't add any extra weight to the front, and it doesn't look very odd. Plus, when you shoot this, you get those really cool flashes. But as I said, this might not be the perfect gun for duty or for concealed carry because of the porting. The porting usually works. I really like the Glock C models as well, and this is the type of porting that I really like. And so I'm glad Smith & Wesson went that way instead of an external compensator. But that's just my personal preference. But now let's talk about a couple things about this pistol that I don't like. The first thing is actually going to be something about the trigger, and that is that it is too curved. Now, you guys know often I talk about my disdain for flat-face triggers. However, I also don't like exceptionally curved triggers. I think that is just way too curved, and I have a little bit of a fat finger here, and so for me to put it on here, as you can see, my finger's already touching the top and bottom of the trigger, and you can already see a gap in there, and that just does not conform to my finger very well. It just feels a little bit odd. The other thing I'm not a huge fan of is the slide stop. Now, one of the complaints with the 1.0 series was that it did not have a detent, and sometimes if you slammed in a magazine, the slide would close. Some people think that's a bug, and some people think that's a feature. I like it when my slide stays open. So Smith & Wesson added a little bit of a detent. So when you insert the magazine, the slide will not go home. But the downside to that is it actually makes dropping the slide kind of difficult because of that detent. That's a lot more work than, let's say, your standard 1911 if you like to drop the slide that way. So this really is a slide stop and not a slide release. So I think on a competition gun, that actually might be a detriment to some people depending on how they shoot. Some people are going to like to reach up to that slide release and drop the slide. However, this is just really a slide stop, and I think I would prefer something that was not as difficult to move. I don't like the first generation, but I don't like the second generation either. I think they went too far in the other direction. But those really are the only two things about this gun that I don't like as it sits on the table. So let's go ahead and take this thing to the range. I'm really excited to shoot this thing. I'm really excited to check out this compensator and to see how it performs differently than the other Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0s that I have shot and really liked. So as always, I'm going to start off at 7 yards. I'm going to load up a magazine. I'm going to go for the center on this target and just see how this thing shoots. I'm also shooting this red dot. Now, personally, when it comes to guns like this, I always prefer iron sights. But I know some people say, well, it's a competition gun. Red dots are the new hotness. I totally get it. And also, the owner of this pistol, Jack, always reminds me, not everybody can see the iron sights, especially as you get a little bit older. And I'm kind of feeling that as I have hit middle age too, and occasionally I need glasses. And the red dots definitely are a force multiplier. But we're going to go ahead and use the red dot. I'm not always as accurate with those as the iron sights, but we're going to see how this gun performs. So here we go, 7 yards, 1 magazine, and let's see how this thing shoots. And man, that compensator works, and this trigger is really, really nice. It is such a nice upgrade over the original. And I would have to say, comparing it to my personal M&P9 M2.0. The trigger is definitely a little bit lighter. I would say this one is probably about 5.5 pounds, and we're going to check this with a trigger gauge a little bit later in this review. This one I feel like is about a pound lighter. I would probably put about in the 4-pound range, and it makes me think that the brake is a little bit more clean as well. So I do like that trigger. I definitely can feel a big upgrade in it. But I can tell you, I'm not a big fan of the red dot on this pistol. Now this Crimson Trace one has a very small window, and it is a 5 MOA dot, so it's kind of big in my personal opinion. I kind of like the ones that are a little bit smaller. I just don't shoot them as well as the iron sights. But shooting this gun, I really feel like if I was just using the iron sights, it would definitely be more accurate. So far, my experience with this gun is very positive. All right, so let's go ahead and set out the target at a further distance. As always, I'm going to aim for the head on this IDPA target. I want to make sure that this group hopefully gets a little bit better or at least stays the same. So here we go, another magazine, and let's see how I do. Okay, so I think I'm getting used to this. That group is definitely better, and even at a further distance. One of the things I like about this grip module is I can really get my hand really high on it, thus bringing down the bore axis. It feels really good in my hand with low recoil, and with the compensator, well, it makes it even nicer. One of the things I'm noticing about the trigger, once again, is that it is really curved, and it is the 2-piece trigger. I kind of prefer the triggers like Glocks that have that blade safety. This is the one that is hinged a little bit, and as you can see, we do have that trigger safety, but it's a little bit different design than that of a Glock or many other manufacturers, and that might be why this is just a little bit too curved. If it had that blade safety, I might like it a little bit more. And although I am shooting in low light, the compensator isn't too flashy. You definitely notice it when you're shooting, but for me, it's not too distracting. All right, so now I want to go out to even a further distance. We're going to bench rest this thing. I'm really going to take my time and see if I can shoot the best group possible with this red dot and this gun. But so far, I feel like this gun overall is really accurate. I just might change the sighting system, but I always review these guns the way they come to me from the people that own them. So here we go. Let's bench rest this thing and see what happens to this group and how well I shoot it. And I will say those results in that grouping might not be as good as I would want. I think some of it just has to do with me and this red dot. I think the red dot in this pistol would be great for quick target acquisition, but for me, I think the iron sights would be better for more precision shooting. And I have to say, I do like the sight radius on this pistol. It is the 5-inch barrel, so you get a very long sight radius. And if you do like using iron sights, I think that is going to be a huge advantage. Now I know some people are going to ask, what is the trigger pull? And is it any different? And is it an upgrade over the standard model? So I got mine out of the safe. This is a standard M2.0. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera. Let's check the trigger pull on these with the new trigger pull gauge I got from my friend Craig. And let's see, is the Performance Center any better than the standard model? All right, so let's check the pull weight of the Smith & Wesson Performance Center M&P9, but I thought first we would check the pull weight of a standard M&P9. This is one from my personal collection. So let's go ahead and start with this one, and let's see if we can get about 5 pulls on this and see what the average is. So on the standard Smith & Wesson M&P9, our first pull is 5 pounds, 2.2 ounces. Second pull is 5 pounds, 5.3 ounces. That one says 4 pounds, 15.9 ounces. Five pounds, 4.0 ounces. And the last one is 5 pounds, 3.2 ounces, which gives us an average of 5 pounds, 2.9 ounces. And that is the standard one. So now let's try the Performance Center and see if this trigger is any better. All right, here we go. First pull. 4 pounds, 4.4 ounces. 4 pounds, 10.1 ounces. Four pounds, 10.9 ounces. Sorry, that's 10.8 ounces. Four pounds, 10.0 ounces. And the last one, 4 pounds, 10.8 ounces for an average of 4 pounds, 9.2 ounces. So the trigger in this Performance Center is definitely a little bit lighter, but I would definitely put still in the realm of a practical or duty trigger and not a target trigger. But the trigger in this is definitely better than the standard and a little bit lighter, and I would say a little bit crisper. So that's the trigger pull. All right, so let's move on to the next test. And for the next test, I want to make sure that this thing runs hollow points. I know this is more of a competition gun, but some people might want to use it for home defense or for concealed carry. And I know that this being a modern US-made handgun, it's going to run absolutely fine. But you never know. I have been surprised in the past when guns don't run hollow points, or they become a little bit more finicky. So we're just going to put a magazine of hollow points through this, see how it changes the performance, if at all, and then we'll move on to the quick magazine change test and also give my wife Becky a chance to get to shoot this. And as expected, this gun runs great with the hollow points. Really, it's been running every bit of ammunition I've been putting through it with strong ejections, no failures to feed, no failures to eject, no issues whatsoever. But that's just what I would expect from an M&P9, Smith & Wesson, and the Performance Center. All right, so now I want to give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this. I already know what she's not going to like. She is kind of grip texture sensitive, and this is really kind of a sandpapery grip. And normally I don't like that grip texture either, but this one is not too bad. It definitely gives you a nice feel in your hand. I could definitely tell if your hands were oily or sweaty, you're not going to drop this gun, but she's probably not going to like that. I'm also curious what she's going to think about the compensator and if it's going to distract her. But let's find out. So let me load up another magazine and give her a chance to shoot it and see what she thinks. And honestly, I was kind of surprised she did not shoot it better than that, because normally when it comes to guns that I don't shoot well, she'll just pick it up and do great. So she didn't enjoy this either, and she actually thought it was the red dot as well, and she would like to have used it with just iron sights. But that is not in any way slamming the Crimson Trace red dot. I think it just has to come down to the familiarity with iron sights over the red dot and just how you like to hold your gun and have it set up. And of course, every red dot can be a little bit different. She said that the compensator did not bother her at all, but once again, I told you she was not going to like this grip texture. Let me show you this grip texture one more time. It's just a little bit too aggressive for her, and she might not like that as much as, let's say, a standard Glock Gen 3. But that's okay. This is why I review these, and of course everybody is different. And please remember that just because you like something about a gun or think it's a huge upgrade, it might not be an upgrade for other people. So one size does not fit all in firearms, and that's why we're so lucky to have so many different companies making so many different models so you can find the one that fits you the best. All right, so now let's move on to the quick mag change test. I want to see if I can fire this thing fast, change magazines fast. Now this gun is designed for competition shooting, so I am kind of expecting to be able to do it quick. And this trigger is really nice, and for me, it's kind of in that sweet spot. I like triggers around 4 to 5 pounds. Any heavier slows me down. Any lighter, well, I can sometimes outrun the gun, or I have issues, or I feel like the gun is unsafe. So it's right in that perfect sweet spot for me. So here we go. I'm gonna load up 2 magazines, shoot this thing as fast as I can, try to get the gun back in action after a quick mag change, and let's see how fast I can do it. And I gotta tell you, this is a really fast shooting gun. I really feel like they have tuned this really well. It's very, very balanced. I was able to get this magazine out of here, new and in, as fast as I possibly could. And I do love the fact that this magazine flies out of there. You guys know that's one of my complaints on some models. I want to push that button and have that mag drop free. I don't want to have to strip it and waste time. This trigger, as I said, is also absolutely fantastic and right in that sweet spot. So I think if you're looking for an affordable gun for competition, this might be a very viable option for you. Now, one thing I am noticing now that I've shot this a lot is that the slide is getting kind of hot because of the compensator. The top of the slide is getting warm, and even back here towards the ejection port. I'm noticing that if I'm trying to rack the slide, especially from the front, and use those forward cocking serrations. So let me get out my laser thermometer, and let's see how hot this slide is getting. And that might not be hot enough necessarily to burn your hand. It's definitely hot enough to be uncomfortable. Just remember that every option on a gun has a pro and a con. And so what I'm always looking for is a gun that balances the options well. And I feel like Smith & Wesson does a pretty darn good job of that with the M&P9s. I really feel like one of the big advantages to this gun is the fact that they offer a gun packed with so many features at a relatively affordable price. When the M&P9s first came out, everyone said, oh my gosh, they're going to be the Glock killer. They're going to be the guns that are going to bring Glock down. Well, they haven't done that. But the thing I like about Smith & Wesson is the fact that they have expanded in this series to other calibers that Glock doesn't offer and into competition variants that they do not offer. And I really feel like they offer a great entry-level competition gun. As I said, this is not going to compete with a Staccato. It's not going to compete with an Atlas Gunworks, a gun that is $5,000 or $6,000. But for the price point, you get a lot of gun. And if you spend time setting up the optic exactly the way that you want or to run it with iron sights, I really feel like this gun can be and would be exceptionally accurate. I also feel like the gun is very well balanced. It might not have everything on the gun that you want, but of course you can always change things out. But for me, the way it comes out of the box is a really nice pistol. It is well balanced with tons of features. It might not be the M&P9 for me. As you guys know, I'm not really a competition shooter, and I prefer guns that are more related to the military and police use. But this gun is awesome. It's a lot of fun to shoot. I don't shoot it as well as I think I should, but once again, I think it has to do with that red dot and just my familiarity with it. So on my star system, how would I rate the M&P9 M2.0 from Smith & Wesson's Performance Center? Well, I'm going to give this one 3.75 stars out of 5. I really want to give it a higher rating, but I don't shoot it as well. But that might be me, it might be the red dot, but the gun performs exceptionally. I didn't have any issues. As I said, no failures whatsoever. The slide does get a little bit warm with extended shooting, but you can shoot this gun really fast. It's just a great, well-balanced, entry-level performance firearm. And that's what I think Smith & Wesson delivers. They deliver a great value for your dollar because this is a high-quality gun without breaking the bank, and you get so many performance and competition features jam-packed into this awesome pistol. So I would highly recommend it if this is the type of gun that you're looking for. It's not necessarily a duty or self-defense gun, but as a competition gun, it's definitely a lot of fun, and as a range toy, it's a lot of fun. So 3.75 stars on the Smith & Wesson M&P9 M2.0 Performance Center. Do you guys own one of these? Do you guys like what the Performance Center puts out? And have you ever compared one of these to the standard model? I'd like to know if your thoughts mirror mine. So, as always, thanks for watching.